slightly dangerous terrain, but I can throw one thought out. I looked into this some years ago when the statues started coming down in 2020, and there are some places where I think there was like very weird overreach, and I can understand some places where some locals might have like got resentful about that. If you go to Monument Avenue in Richmond, there are no monuments. It's just an avenue with a lot of like stone bases, which you could put a statue at some point, but there aren't. If you're into plinths, it's a great place. It's a lovely place. And in fact, the only statue that is still there is what's his name? Arthur Ashe, the tennis player.
Arthur Ashe?
Yeah. So there's a big statue of him. It's the only one still standing, and he's got a child kneeling there with a book, and he's got the tennis racket up. And unfortunately, it looks like he's about to beat the child.
Bill, the seasoned host known for his unfiltered takes and fearless interviews, welcomed a powerhouse panel featuring British thinker and cultural critic Douglas Murray. Their mission? To unpack some of the most pressing issues shaping society today, from fiery debates over history to widening economic divides and growing concerns in healthcare. The conversation wasn't just surface talk, it dove straight into the heart of our cultural friction. Murray brought his trademark clarity to the shifting political and social currents, while Bill challenged every narrative with sharp questions and zero hesitation. The result? A collision of ideas that revealed just how fractured public opinion has become. But it wasn't all clash, it was a call. A call for truth, perspective, and real conversations in a time when noise often drowns out nuance. What started as a panel became a rally cry for courage in a world addicted to comfort zones.
My point is, I can understand if I were a local, I might have got a bit annoyed about this. Yeah.
But I think it's worth remembering that the Confederacy celebrated slave owning, and these statues weren't built during the Confederacy. Sure. They were built when the Jim Crow laws were being enforced and segregation was really being enforced. So I think we need to know our history and honor our history, but I can understand how it would be tough to live in a town that is celebrating people who really thought that slavery was a great thing.
Well, everybody thought that, by the way. I mean, I agree. Now, first of all, so we put the statue up?
No, that's
sure. Great. I mean, yeah.
But you can do what museums call retain and explain. I mean, you say we need to know our history. How are people going to know their history if there's no statues representing anything that happens except for one side? I mean, in most countries, like France, for instance, France said in 2020, the president himself said, we will take down no statues, we need to know all of our history. And that's
in the Soviet Union, should they have kept the statues of Marx and Lenin up after Russia became a republic?
They did. I've been to them. There are lots of the former Soviet republics put all the statues in a park, for instance, where you could then go and look at them. That's
a museum would be great.
Right. It is.
A lot of the statues we're talking about are not explanations; they're venerations.
Sure.
Exactly.
And if they're celebrating, as you just spoke so eloquently to, if they're celebrating things like slavery and the Confederacy, then I think it's worth having a conversation about whether.
The reappearance of Confederate names in Virginia schools has reignited a firestorm. This time not just about plaques and buildings, but about what we remember, why we remember it, and how that affects the future. The clash isn't just local, it's national. It's about whether America will confront its past honestly or sanitize it for comfort. Historian Eric Schloer reminded viewers that many of these names and monuments didn't originate during the Civil War. They were planted during Jim Crow to enforce segregationist power. Meanwhile, voices like Douglas Murray and Bill push a different angle. Keep the history, but reframe it. Use those symbols not as shrines but as conversation starters. Their stance: don't glorify rebellion, but don't erase it either. Because finding a balance between remembrance and responsibility might be one of the hardest, and most important, battles in America's cultural war.
And they were traitors. They were traitors. This was a war against a secessionist.
Yeah. It wars happen. I mean, look, there are obviously cases like that, where, like Stonewall Jackson, I don't think you particularly need to have a school named after. But, don't forget in 2020, this rampage went all the way through to any high school named after Thomas Jefferson.
Right. Well, so there's a logic.
Right.
And it can get out of hand.
And it got out of hand very fast.
You were talking about what might happen with the Trump administration. I hope that we're not going to have in Monument Valley the January 6th insurrectionists, and what was the guy with the horns? Statues of those rebels.
I could see.
But he will get them out of jail.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
He will pardon them.
But I mean, again, on this slavery thing, don't put up statues of traitors who supported slavery, but also teach kids the truth.
Yeah.
Slavery was a horrible thing that everybody in the world did, including people of color in other parts of the world. It's all through the Bible. Every civilization did it. They didn't even think it was wrong. There's no laws against it in the Bible. There's a lot of laws about it, and nobody ever goes, oh, maybe we should just not do it. Never crossed their mind.
Right.
Again, teach the whole story. That would be my
History took center stage in the discussion, and not the watered-down, feel-good version. The panel emphasized the need for honest, full-spectrum education. Yes, that includes slavery, systemic racism, and the painful truths too many avoid. Douglas Murray argued that monuments shouldn't be destroyed but relocated to museums, where they can teach, not glorify. The point isn't to celebrate past injustice but to give it proper context. By facing uncomfortable history head-on, society doesn't weaken, it matures. This approach invites learning, reflection, and growth. Education, when done right, becomes a weapon against ignorance and a bridge across generations. It's how you turn scars into lessons and mistakes into movement.
Economy, this is for you, Frank, contribute, or tiered economy, contribute to people's sense of grievance. Oh yeah, that's in your book.
Yeah, no, I write a lot about that in the book. I think one of the things that's happened to us is our economy has become such an engine of envy, right? Our service economy is tiered in a fine-grained way that it never was before. When I was a teenager and I went to a rock concert, I remember getting up at 3 a.m. and going to the Hartford Civic Center, what was called
Who were you seeing after?
Queen.
Queen.
And I'll tell you, right, but here's the thing, there were basically 3 sets of seats. There were 3 ticket prices.
Right.
And if you wanted to sit, as I did, close to the stage, I got 8th row. What you did wasn't shell out $10,000 or more, as people do for one of the like $250, $350 prices for a Taylor Swift ticket. You actually went in a quasi-egalitarian way and you stood outside online. Got into the 8th row, caught Freddie Mercury's tambourine when he threw it out at the end of the show. Those I end up losing it over time, which is a terrible thing.
Suddenly it's the Kelly Clarkson show.
But you take the Taylor Swift concerts as an example, right? People are paying so many different prices, and then they are going on their social media feeds and they're posting pictures of how close to the stage they were. Sometimes it's a family of 6. You're looking at $10,000 shelled out for one evening.
Sure.
We are more aware of the people who live on the echelon above us, the echelon above them, the echelon above that. It is in our faces in social media all the time, and I think it fills us with envy and drives us apart.
The role of historical education came roaring to the forefront as the panel tackled the uncomfortable parts of America's story head-on. No sugarcoating, no skipping chapters. They stressed the need to tell the entire truth, including the brutal legacy of slavery and the deep roots of systemic discrimination. Douglas Murray made a bold but balanced point. Don't trash the monuments, contextualize them. Shift them to educational spaces like museums, where they can teach rather than glorify. That way, the country confronts its past without pretending it never happened. It's about facing history with open eyes, not erasing it, but learning from it. Powerful education like this can close cultural rifts, heal old wounds, and lay down a smarter, stronger path forward.